Hello everyone, Watermelons11 here, and today I will be showing you step by step how I made my My Singing Monsters fan-made project, Intranox Island. I will be going through the different stages of creating it, including the initial idea, the composition process, the monster design commentaries, the editing, and finally my overall thoughts on the island as a whole. As you may have noticed, this video is much longer than my usual content, so feel free to skip to whatever stage you want, using the timestamps in the description. Now then, let's travel all the way back to the 2nd of November last year, where I got my first ideas for the island. I hope you enjoy this video. So, okay, the plan is make a fan-made island, but have it completely original, all new monsters, just all the designs are original. The original island design, just everything. No animations, because I don't know how to do that. Okay, so these are just placeholder elements for now. But I had the idea of doing, having 2 light elements and 2 dark elements. Now I know that Light Island's already a thing, and Dark Island's already a fan-made thing. I feel like if I combine the 2 together, I feel like one half of the island is going to be the light, and then the other half of the island's going to be the dark. Okay, so imagine this here is the island. So this is going to be like the light, the island's going to have like 2 different designs to it. This is the light design. And then it's going to switch to the dark design during the song. So I was planning on having it switching through these 2 designs over and over and over again, depending on whether the light monsters or the dark monsters are playing. I think I'm going to have all the light monsters play in one section and have all the dark monsters playing in their own section. And also, the light section could be in major key, but then the dark side could be in its relative minor. So the song's going to sound completely different depending on what side's playing. Okay, so I've made 2 example monsters here. We've got Torch Hand and Black Hole. So these are just placeholders. So let's just say that Torch Hand plays on the light bit, but you see Torch Hand is never gonna play with Black Hole, because this is a light element and this is a dark element, as you can see here. Alright, this is this is my idea of what to do to distinguish whether a monster is going to be light or dark. So I've assigned each element a value, and depending on what combination of elements there are, the values get added up together, and the resulting number, if it's positive, it's going to be a light monster, and if it's negative, it's going to be a dark monster. As you can see, there's a few neutral ones, so I just randomly chose whether it would be light or dark or not. The quad element's going to be a mixture of the 2, and it's going to be the only monster that's going to play in both the light and the dark sections. So that's just the general idea I have. So I might as well start composing and see how this is all just gonna work out. Welcome to Soundtrap. This is where I do all my composing for everything. And all the previous islands I've done, I've used Soundtrap. So I might as well get started doing the major thing then. Okay, so I've just got a basic structure going on so far. This is gonna be, I don't know if this is actually what it's gonna sound like in the end, but I've got this so far. And then it just loops. So I think that's a nice starting off place. I'm gonna continue messing around with them. I might add some strings. I might turn the bass up a bit. Let's add some volume. Turn it all the way up. Ow! What? Ow! I should not have done that! Time to add some well-needed percussion. This is so annoying. How do I... So I can get it exactly... Oh, that's good enough, I guess. Wait, isn't it quieter when you just place it in the piano roll? Wait, what? Oh. I think I found a solution. Yeah, the quietness of the... I really like how... I thought it was like annoying when I first discovered it, but it's actually quite useful because you can make echo effects with it. Yeah, so far in the light half I have this. I think that's good, I think. I can always like tweak it about later, but that's what I have so far. So I've changed a few things around, and I made a bit of a structure for the song. I've added like I've added a new drum section. And I've also added a flute section as well. Also changed this to a harpsichord as well. I don't know if that's gonna stick, but probably gonna change, to be fair. Wait, actually, I'm gonna change it now. Sounds weird. Kalimba, why not? I think then it's gonna change to the dark section. So let's add like a really like heavy bass. I know this is quite heavy, right? Let's see. Ooh. That's good. I like that. I like the sound of that. I love the contrast between these two sections. on the, that's a lot of stuff on here. I'm gonna add the stereo delay on this one. I'm gonna move that there probably. Actually, let's add some cowbell. Well, I think that sounds good. I think that's a pretty good start. I got the dark side done, and I've added a bit more to the lighter side. So I guess the song is just going to keep developing from here then. Right, okay, a lot has changed since I last showed you the composition. I've added quite a lot. I've made like a general structure. Dark section's still the same, but this like hype cello has been added. And then I've also added the, how do you say this? Bogarabo. I don't know how to, Bogarabo. Bogarabo? Bogarabo? I don't know. I've added a Bogarabo as well. The hype cello has its own section. And I've also added a cowbell synth as well. It kind of mimics the rusty trap bells. And the song ends with, like, in the dark section with the cowbell synth. So, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I need one more light monster, one more dark monster, and then I need to do the quad. So I might as well sort out how many elements each monster's gonna have. So I think the kalimba... Okay, how am I gonna... So light 1E. Okay, light 1E. I feel like the cello should be like a 3 element. Let's just make the drum kit a 1 element. Make this a 2 element. I don't know why this is down. I'll move this up here with all the rest of them. I have to change the color because I want to keep this. I want to keep this consistent. I care about consistency. So I think the Bagarabo. Actually, let's make this. Let's make the flute a 3 element, and then we'll make this a 2 element. So we just need one more. We just need one more 2 element for the light side. I feel like the basic. These definitely feel like dark 1E. I feel like these should be like the most dark sounding stuff here, I think. So these ones are both dark 1 elements. I feel like the drums for this should definitely be a triple element because they're very complicated, they add a lot, and they definitely feel like they would be 3 element. Same thing with this one, I think. Considering like I don't know, it just seems like it would be a 3 element. This, I guess, I mean this one doesn't really add too much, it could be a 2 element, and the cowbell definitely just feels like a 2 element as well. So on both sides, it seems like a 2 element is both needed as well as the quad. Like more of a transitional thing. So it's going to play on both sides. I feel like it'll be a good transition, especially for some parts like this. That kind of feels a bit jarring going from that to that, so I think I might make a transition noise for the quad. For the other two, I'm not sure. I have a concept for the dark one where it could be like a siren, I think. Like I kind of like the concept of having like what feels like it would be a light monster in the dark section. He's like hasn't adapted to being a dark monster, but I feel like I could play in this section. maybe, and maybe in like, I'm not sure. I'll play around with it and I'll see what I can come up with. So, as you can see, I've made a lot more. I think I actually finished the song, to be fair. I kind of got a bit carried away with adding stuff. I now have 15 monsters on here. The things that I added, well, I added the final light and dark monster. So first of all, I'll just show you. I'll show you this one first. This is the siren I was talking about. Basically, I just used a royalty-free siren sound effect, and then it also plays at this ending section here. Well, I didn't really know what to do for the final light one, so I mainly just used, like, what's it called? Ironically, it's called a dark upright piano, but yeah, I just used this, and it plays a very similar thing to the bass and the strings. Big part, this whole section here I've added. Just so the light and the dark parts have an equal amount of playing to them. This is the final section that the light monsters are going to be playing in. So yeah, that's the final light section. I originally had it in the wrong key, so I had to change that around. I've finished the quad. Basically, it has 3 different sounds to it. The first one is this, like, okay, I'll just play them all individually. The second one. And the third one. So yeah, all together, they sound like... And it basically originally sounded like this. But then I use like a voice changing software to like manipulate and distort the voice. Final sound, I just used a bass. It's actually the same one used for this dark one up here. Yeah, this end bit actually loops back to the start, like the songs actually do. So when it loops... yeah, it just goes back to the start. And I think that's the entire song done. So all I've got now is to finish off all the designs of the monsters, name them all, give them descriptions, edit it all together, and that should be it. So yeah, that's the composition process done. See you in the design segment. Welcome to the design section. Here I will go through each monster one by one and detail several things about them, such as how I got the idea for it, what my opinions on the monster are, and other fun bits of trivia that I have about them. I sketched out all of the monsters in real life first, and then used the digital art software, Critter, to go over the designs and create the visuals you see in the actual video. If you want to see all of the sketches and concept art, they will appear at the end of this section. The monsters will be listed in the order that I designed them in. Without further ado, here is the first monster I designed. So, the very first monster that I started to design was Kalimbeard, since I thought the single elements would be a good place to start, as well as its sound being the very first thing you hear in the song. I first played about by looking at pictures of Kalimbas and thinking about how it could become a monster design. I thought that the Kalimba's sound was somewhat crystalline, and the keys you play on the instrument do look a bit like stalactites, so I decided to revolve the monster based around the crystal element, with stalactite-like growths coming downwards. These growths then turned into a beard somehow, and now there's a random floating mouth on the island. I think that this design is the most monster-like out of all of them, despite not really fitting in with the rest of the monsters on the island. It's still a good start to the designs though. Even though I wanted to work on the single elements first, surprisingly I made a triple element as the second monster. I really wanted to make a hedgehog monster, and I thought that the strings are a calming and elegant sound that could work quite well with that idea, as well as the crystals being its spines. Now, if you're paying attention, you might notice that the footage in the background isn't actually what Precalli looks like in the video. This is because this footage is from Bricello's original design, which looks like this.
What the hell?
Yeah, I can see why I scrapped this. It just doesn't look right. Something about the strange placement of the strings, and the weird way it's sitting, and how there's just a weirdly high amount of detail on the body. I'm very glad I changed it, because I think the new design is a lot cuter, and the way it creates its sound makes a lot more sense. Bricello has got to be one of my favourites. Going back to the single elements, here is the representative of the fluorescence element, Starkit. Fun fact, Vortex, the element of darkness, was actually thought of first before I started designing any of them, and I wanted a counterpart to it. I chose another celestial body, a star, and based Starkit's design off of that. I think the way it makes a sound is really creative here, with its solar flares being shot out at asteroids that make drum kit sounds. I'm also a big fan of the way I make the fiery texture for its body. I'm relatively new to using this software, and I'm glad I managed to create a convincing effect with such little experience. Being the main melody to the light, I knew that I had to make Crustacean's design good, and I think I succeeded, with it being pretty funny, yet really weird. My favourite part of the design has got to be the random reed that just is plastered on his whiskers for some reason. It reminds me of the cello head tail on Bricello. It took a long time to get the colour of the arms and the claws of it right, but I think I finally made them look somewhat natural. When you think about the design for too long, it doesn't really make much sense. The shell is supposed to be see-through, and yet you can't see its body through the shell? Yeah, well, whatever. It's just still pretty funny. Oh, and by the way, the reference sketch image I was working from looked like this. I'm surprised I managed to get such a good design considering what I was working with here. Continuing the theme of light monsters, next up we have Boa Garabo. Snakes are my favourite animal, so naturally I wanted to make a monster out of it. Sticking with the crystal representatives, I decided to make the snake entirely out of crystals, wrapped around an actual Bogarabo. The design also represents the sound quite well too, with the rapid fire notes in its track being played by the tail, and the single ones being played by the head. If there was one thing to change about the design, it would probably be the eye. I originally wanted the eye to be a diamond-shaped crystal, but I changed it last minute to be a normal eye shape, a decision I probably shouldn't have done. But overall, I really like the transparency of the different segments on its body, and its sound being a nice subtle percussion that I think really works well with the others. That's right, we've finally got our first dark monster. Vortex was briefly talked about earlier, being the counterpart and inspiration for Starkit. For a deep, heavy bass sound, I thought that a literal black hole would be a great way of representing it. If you look at the element for darkness, you'll see that there are 3 brightly coloured rings circling around a black circle. This was part of Vortex's original design, but they were scrapped after they looked somewhat tacky and didn't really represent the darkness element too well. It's also kind of funny to just think how there's a literal black hole that's just casually living with every other monster, a thing I pointed out in its description. Finishing off the single elements, we have Morse Chime. Intranox Island was created nearing December, which meant Christmas was coming up at the time. I was trying to come up with the design for the echoing bell sound in the song, when I found some red bell Christmas decoration things we had. I then thought about how I could play around with this concept, and the red bells were eventually turned into red fruits on a tree. I also needed an element for this monster, considering I hadn't actually thought of the 4th element for the island yet. After trying a few concepts like ink or stone, I eventually settled on the spooky element. What? Huh? Are you talking about me? No, not you! Anyway, with this new element of supernatural, I made a hand rising from a gravestone, and thus Morse Chime was born. I'm really happy with the progression of the idea for this monster, and I think that this scary zombie hand represents the eerie echo of the bells very well. Hey, wait, what does the text on the gravestone even say? Whilst most islands have a castle base, Toucandle is the one to make the bass sound on this island. For the light side, I was really struggling to think of an idea for the bass monster. I first considered doing a pun with a bass playing the bass, but that idea didn't really turn into anything. I then tried some more animals like a lazy sloth, and some other light things like a lamp, but nothing really ended up being too good. I then made a bird that bent down to reach strings on a platform it was on, and after searching for a light-emitting object I hadn't used yet, I settled on a candle and made the whole bird out of candle wax. The wax justifies its flexibility, and its description is pretty funny as well. The name was also a given, the pun just works too well with the monster design. Back to Dark, I had the idea for a television-like monster since the beginning. As soon as I made the creaky synth that plays the main melody in the dark half, for some reason I just knew this had to be an old-timey television. It took quite a while to get the width and colour of the mechanical arms right, and the hearing aid that it holds was originally supposed to be a gramophone, but it was eventually scrapped in favour of the horn. The gross, disgusting, horrible foot was also not a part of the original design. It was originally an adjustable platform that would extend based on the pitch, but it was scrapped in favour of the foot, which makes the design feel a lot more like a monster. I'm also a fan of all the scratches and marks on the body of the television too. It makes it look like it's been around for quite a long time. Ah, look, another synth monster. The strange sort of sound of the synth made me think of a ghost or a chill, which resulted in this idea. I'm a big fan of the little details of this design, such as how the lid of the box the ghosts are in is slightly ajar, as well as the little purple mist that's coming from the inside. The ghosts have different faces and personalities too, which I thought was a nice touch. The name's pretty funny as well. Potter Ghosts is exactly what it sounds like. The description also makes fun of this fact, with other names like Intrabox being considered. But yeah, this one represents the spooky element pretty well. Ah, shush! Wrapping up the last of the light monsters, we have Volcano. You may have noticed in the composition process, Volcano's sound wasn't composed or even mentioned at all. This is because it was the very last addition to the song, which is why its sound isn't anything special really. I like how this monster incorporates parts of light and dark, considering that its value when the elements are added up is 0. A little detail that I really enjoy is the little lava stains on its keyboard correspond with the key of the song, E flat major. When I flipped the design to fit on the island, all of the markings were in the wrong spot, so I went back and changed every single lava spot to fit in the right places. Worth it. Alarm! That's such a dumb name, but a great monster. I spoke about this one in the composition process, talking about an alarm sound I wanted to add, and how it would be constantly panicking all the time. Turns out I wasn't too far off what it would actually turn out to be. Similar to Volcano, this monster's elemental value is 0, which is why it's like a light monster on the dark half of the island. I love how it always seems like it's in a constant state of panic and running about all the time. The name is admittedly very silly, but I love it. I was originally trying to do something with the word siren, but I gave up and just stuck 4 extra letter A's in the word alarm to make it seem like even its name is screaming. Its sound also fits surprisingly well into the song too. I'm not exactly sure why I went for the siren, but it definitely works. Overall, Alarm has got to be one of my favourites just because of how much charm it has. COWS, or Creator of Wacky Synth as its full name is the final double element of the island. The light half of the island is full of bright and colourful animals, so I thought that one of the only animals on the dark half should be a bleak robot as a nice contrast to them. Now, the design you see in the full song isn't actually what the original design looked like. Nah, don't worry, it's not as bad as Prekello's original design. The original design for cows looked like this. Very similar to what it is now, basically. When I finished this version of the design, I thought that something was a bit off about it, so I added horns, extra shading, a bit of dull colour, and its leg lifting into the air to give it more expression. I'm glad I changed it. The original kind of looked like Shaun the Sheep anyway. The final triple element monster, a racket, is the second to last monster I designed. I needed a pretty big monster for the electric drum kit, and the racket certainly delivers. This monster's design came from the actual island itself. The light half of the island is surrounded by crystals, since crystals are a big part of the light monsters, being the sub-element of fluorescence. But when it came to designing the dark half, I wasn't exactly sure what to put. I thought of what I could do with the spooky element, since that was the sub-element to darkness, and eventually settled on cobwebs. And since I needed an explanation to how the webs got there, a racket was born. I like how its instruments look very handmade, and how they're all just being held together by cobwebs. I think that a spider works really well with its fast, complex drum pattern, and I can imagine it doing similar actions to the monster Poke from the actual game. I'm not sure how the symbol at the top is staying up there though. I probably should have thought that one through a bit more. And here's the quad himself, Intranox. Intranox is the only monster to play in both the light and the dark sections of the song, and I wanted his design to reflect that. That's why half of his design is light yellow, whilst the other half is grey. If you look carefully, you can also see the 4 elements in his crown too. Fluorescence, crystal, darkness, and I mean supernatural. The sound I made for it gave me the vibe of a powerful wizard type character, so I gave him 2 staffs, one for day and one for night, with 2 strange balls of energy coming from them that help control the transition between the 2 halves. I'm overall really happy with how Intranox turned out, and he fits the islands really well, probably because his colour scheme was taken from them. The sound is really good as well. I showed the original sounds in the composition process, and I'm really surprised I managed to get such a good sound from them. It also sounds like he's cackling during his tracks as well, which really adds to his personality. For the name, I just decided to name him after the island, since he already represents it so well. He might as well be the namesake. I think that Intranox is the perfect way to end Intranox Island, and is a fantastic quad in his own right. Now then, that's the end of the design section. I'm so glad I managed to create 15 unique monster designs and bring them to life in a software that I was relatively new to. But enough of that, it's time for section 4, the editing. Welcome to the editing section, which will go through how all of the pieces from the composition and the designs will all fit together. I created all of the images that you see in the videos, like the individual sounds and the full song, in PowerPoint, which is the best image editing software and no one can change my mind about it. I then took a screenshot of each slide and put them into the editing software Shotcut, which I've used to edit all of my previous videos. I laid the MP3 from Soundtrap on an audio track, and overlaid the images above it that corresponded to what part of the song it was. I then used fade effects on them to get a smooth transition between each image. I then exported the Shotcut file and uploaded it to YouTube.
Wait, is that it?
What, spooky? But I didn't even say your name this time.
No, you didn't.
What exactly do you mean by, is that it?
Like, the composition process and the design commentaries are like 15 minutes long. And then you just got this section that's less than a minute long? That's just telling us how to edit a video? What's the point of that?
Let's move on to the final stage!
Hey, wait, no, you can't just...
Everything has been put together and uploaded, so now it's time to give my overall thoughts on the project 3 months later. I thought that it would be quite ambitious to create an island with fully original monsters with fully original designs, but I was willing to try it out to see how it would go. I wanted to go in a different direction than other fan-made islands, and do something that would stand out. This is where I came up with the island switching mechanic. This kind of composing was something I hadn't really tried before, with it switching between major and minor constantly, and making sure that they played for an equal amount of time. In fact, I don't think I've even made a single composition with a key change before. It was a fun challenge to try and make the switching sound natural, and making both sides audibly distinct from each other, without it sounding too jarring. The design's probably my favourite part of the island. Now, I'm no artist, so I'm impressed that I got to create all the designs that I did. Thinking of how each one could represent their sound was a challenge, as well as incorporating their elements into them too. My favourites are probably Crustacean, Procello, Morza Chime, and Alarm, because they all represent their elements well, and I think they're the most creative out of the whole lot. I guess these reasons don't really apply for Alarm, but I snuck him in that list anyway, just because he's my personal favourite. Oh yeah, another piece of trivia is where I got the name Intranox from. I was trying to come up with a name for the island, but couldn't really think of anything too great. Some names like Contrasting Island and Dark Light Island were considered, but when I asked my brother about it, he came up with the name Intranox Island, which literally translates to, within darkness, there is light. This is referenced to in the monster Intranox's description. Overall, I think that I created exactly what I envisioned in my head, almost like I took my thoughts and just pasted them onto the screen. Now then, was it worth the views it got? Probably not, but this whole set of videos are probably the most enjoyment that I've had out of everything I've made, so on a personal level I think that it was worth it.
How cheesy.
Would you get out of here?
Thank you for watching this video. This one was really fun to make. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then like and subscribe and whatever else there is, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye!
Hey guys, it's me, Intranox from Intranox Island, and today we're going to be playing